No, they're still a national power, so to speak, but they are not going to be up there with the top 6 teams in college football, right? Maybe not even the top 8 teams in college football. They've been leaking here for the last several years.
Okay. I think you called your shot on this a couple of years back,
Yeah,
right?
a couple years ago, I felt like, okay, you could see the cracks starting to come and develop.
Yep.
And a lot of it has to do with the recruiting.
Yep.
Okay, when you lose, number one, you lost Chad Morris several years ago. He goes to SMU as a head coach. Okay, you replace him basically with a dual combination of Tony Elliott and Jeff Scott calling plays. Jeff leaves and goes to USF. Yeah, that's right. He goes to USF. So you still are pretty dominant for the most part, but you're losing a little bit of that luster. Now, all of a sudden, you lose Tony Elliott, who goes off and says, okay, I'm out of here. I'm going to Virginia.
Yep.
And Brent Venables, your defensive coordinator, takes off and goes to Oklahoma.
He did. Yep.
Now you look at it and you say to yourself, okay, too much turnover on the staff, that the staff was strong. They was doing all the recruiting and coaching of the players. And Dabo was basically a CEO. Now he has to do more, and he can't do more right now, right? Then you talk about the transfer portal. He doesn't believe in the transfer portal. Every school in America is taking transfer. They're in the portal. He took one.
Yeah, but he's saying, I'm Clemson and you're not. But he's not Clemson
You took one, and there's 12 people that left.
Yeah.
12 players left, and one came in.
Yeah.
He's not turning over the roster. He's not getting the same type of players, and nobody is afraid of Death Valley anymore.
Yeah,
They're just not.
No, they're not scared of it. And you just talked about him not being a fan of the transfer portal. He was the most adamant person speaking against players getting paid in the NCAA. He said if the NCAA finds a way to pay players, he's going to find a new profession. I'm going to let you know something, Dabo. If you're not paying these players, you're not going to get the same quality of players you have gotten in the past. These NIL deals, these teams are finding ways, these schools are finding ways to get these players the money that they deserve and they want. And so just the way he thinks about that, the way he thinks about the student athlete and the player doesn't resonate with me. It doesn't sound right. You know, a guy being so against these players who are putting in real work. You've seen these guys putting in real work for your teams. They helped you win ball games, help you make a lot of money. You're not into them making money. That's frustrating to hear. And it just looked like in that game, Clemson doesn't have the better players right now. They were fundamentally beaten that game. They missed exchanges, fumbling the snap. You fumble 2 times in the red zone. You throw a interception off the running back's hands, things like that. Those were fundamentals. You got to be better at that. But it's different. Those things bite you different when you're not just way better than your opponent. And they used to be way better than Duke for so long. They've been just had way better players, much better players. They got 5- and 4-star athletes. They're putting them out there. So regardless of the mistakes, they're going to win by 30 points. You're not going to get that. So like you said, Key, he had too much turnover, but it's just his coaching philosophy and the way he's thinking about his players. You heard Jim Harbaugh, who, you know, we've had our differences, but you heard him adamantly fighting, saying, hey, I want my players to get paid. I want my players to get paid. I don't understand why they're not sharing in the revenue. There are guys that's going to want to go to Michigan because they know that coach is fighting for his players in that way.
Okay, just for perspective here, remember, the stats screamed after the game last night that Clemson was better than Duke.
Yes.
Clemson had every opportunity to seize control of the game, and it turned early in the fourth quarter, if we could see the play. They got it 1st and goal at the 1. They're about to go up by a point. They had just interviewed the Duke coach, Mike Elko, who had said they're starting to lean on us because they're physical in the trenches, and then this play happened. And the corner gets it, and all of a sudden, the quarterback for Clemson, who can fly, he runs him down. I'm sure the corner's going to hear about that in the film session, right? But Cade Klubnik can run, but he doesn't have the kind of poise or just the credentials or the overall skill set of Deshaun Watson or Trevor Lawrence. He's not those guys, right? And what did Clemson used to be called? Speaking of your position, it used to be called wide receiver U.
Yeah.
I didn't see anybody out there last night that would qualify as wide receiver U.
One of the things, Skip, is the rest of college football is catching up to Clemson, right? Think about Nebraska years ago. Many years ago under Tom Osborne. The facilities was second to none. Nobody could touch them. Clemson's used to be that way. Now, all of a sudden, every university is getting money because of the television rights. They're getting money. They're building giant facilities.
Yeah.
So Clemson's a nice place. It's cute. It's a good football town. But when you have the opportunity to go to some of these other places, Clemson came into California and got players.
They did.
They can't do that anymore
No.
because now USC is back. UCLA is a nice program. Oregon is up the coast. So when you start to think about those sort of things, along with the facilities, it doesn't happen anymore, right? So now you say, okay, where can you get the players from? They were going down to Florida heavy and getting all the Florida guys with a bunch of other schools. Florida State is back. You're not just going to be able to ride into South Florida and take those kids from Cristobal in the Miami Hurricanes. They're slowly coming back.
Okay.
Those kids going to stay home now and not travel to Clemson, South Carolina. That's part of it, where they're not getting the receivers that they once had. T. Higgins came from Tennessee.
He did.
The University of Tennessee is pretty damn good.
Yeah.
That T. Higgins ain't going to Clemson if Tennessee was good when he came out of school. So the college football landscape is catching up.
I didn't see a DeAndre Hopkins. I didn't see a Mike Williams. I didn't see a Sammy Watkins last night. Maybe they're there and I just didn't notice them yet.
You're not going to see them, Skip.
Yeah.
Skip, you're not going to see them because other schools are paying them to be there.
That too.
Ohio State
That
is
too.
receiver U right now. LSU. These schools in the SEC are not going to not pay these kids to be there. They've been waiting for the green light to pay these kids. I mean, they might have not waited for the green light to pay these kids, but now they got the green light to pay these kids and get the kids that deserve the money. There are kids in places that can't afford to leave their family and go get a college education. Now they can. Now they can send money back home. And if you're saying you're against them sending money back home and against giving them money so they can take care of their families, you're not going to get them kids. They hungry.
Well, here's what I'm going to say, Richard. The universities are not giving the money. It's the collective. So let's clear that up a little bit. It's not the universities. It's the collectives that are helping out the universities figure out how to somewhat help the kids on an NIL basis. So I just want to make sure that we all understand USC is not paying players, Skip. Just want to be clear.
My apologies
maybe
there.
Oklahoma and Stanford's doing that, but the University of Southern California does not pay players.
Although
Clearly, that's why Reggie Bush is suing the NCAA
aren't
to
you
prove that
involved in
point
a little
right
NIL
now.
business of your own?
Yes, I am involved in the Tommy Group. It has nothing to do with the university.
Okay.
Just want to make that point
Do they
clear.
help UCLA too?
Not my collective. I ain't got nothing to do with it, what UCLA is doing. I just know UCLA got a hell of a freshman quarterback.
Okay, two other quick points about last night. They were raving on ESPN about this kid, Peter Woods, that Dabo signed out of Alabama. A defensive tackle that Dabo says will be generational, will be the best they've ever had at Clemson, and that's another big mouthful. So I'm watching and I'm waiting, and I know he's a true freshman, but usually when you're that guy, you're that guy, and you're going to jump off my TV screen. He registered no stats last night, didn't scratch. So I don't know. Are you overestimating who you're recruiting? You're trying to sell recruits now to the public that can't measure up?
Well, losing Brent Venables is that's a hard one to replace.
Yeah.
I mean, he was dominant for so long on Dabo's staff as a defensive coordinator that you just knew year in and year out they was literally loaded with NFL talent across the board on the front end, the middle, and the back end, and that's not happening right now.
Still not sure about Brent as a head coach, but that will be told here in a few weeks at Oklahoma. But the big point is, let's look at Duke real quick. That kid, Riley Leonard, their quarterback, I was watching closely because Mel Kiper on his big board has him 20th overall in the third quarterback on the board. And he was highly unimpressive throwing the football last night. He can run with it because he was a basketball player and he had 98 yards rushing, had the big breakaway 44-yarder to start the second half. But my point is, that kid I saw for Colorado on Saturday,
where?
Hey, come on. Hey, that kid, that kid who's the son of the head coach?
Shador, like I said about Shador.
Hey.
If Caleb is a 10, he ain't no 3.
No.
That's all I'm saying.
No, I mean, he might be a 9.
That's all I'm saying.
9.5.
You know, so sometimes guys who are grading players this
Yeah.
early in the season, it'll flip and change as the season wears on. That gentleman, that young kid from Duke, won't be a top 3 quarterback by the time we get to the end of the year if he played the way he played last night.
I totally agree.
And they'll start to look at the old film differently. They'll start to look at that Jackson State film that Shedeur was putting out there a little differently when he starts to do it at Colorado, because it won't just seem like, oh, he's just the competition. It'll be like, oh, he's really reading these defenses, his processing fast, the rhetoric around his numbers and what he's done will change.
Hey, Cade Klubnik, Riley Leonard, Shedeur, but it's like 510 yards. He didn't miss a throw all day.
Tried to tell you.
Yeah.
Tried to tell you.
Let's get Michael Irvin back in here and talk some Dallas Cowboys and New York Football Giants. Will Dak continue his dominance over the Giants on Sunday night? I sure hope so.
No mercy, no mercy.